Marxist plot to ignite civil war. And I hope you'll go there and read it. I won't go through it because I'm going to deal with it tonight. But I laid out all of these people that have been calling for violence against conservatives, Christians, people of faith, constitutionalists, MAGA people, America First people, whatever you want to call them. They are agitating for a civil war, folks. They are agitating for conflict. And as I said in the first paragraph, I said right here, let's expose their words and deeds as the evidence screams of a red-green strategy, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist. A red-green strategy between the Marxists and the Islamists as the globalists use them to bring chaos. And then blame conservatives and Christians for the chaos due to their so-called intolerance and worldview. And that's exactly what they'll do. So we'll deal with that more tonight. And again, exclusive interview tonight with Ed Martin, who's now moved from being the U.S. District Attorney in D.C. to being the pardon czar for the DOJ, for the Trump administration, and investigating the weaponization of government, as well as investigating the Biden pardons. So exclusive interview tonight on Brain House Live with Ed Martin. Joining me now is former Congressman Steve King of Iowa. He is a man that many years ago on the floor of House of Representatives was warning about immigration. He was way ahead of the curve, and he was warning about birthright citizenship. I want to ask about what James Comey has done, and then I want to ask him about the arguments before the Supreme Court yesterday on birthright citizenship, something he's been writing about for years. Congressman, welcome to our 74 Christian stations on VCY America Radio Network and TV on World YouTube and WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me on, Brandon. I always enjoy it, and I always learn something, too.
Well, it's two ways, that's for sure. That's iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, right? We keep each other sharp and up to speed. All right, let's talk about first James Comey, former FBI director. Can you believe he would do that, put that out?
You know, I actually missed that piece of the news, so I didn't catch up with you in time to hear you say it. So I can't really comment if it's current. I can't. If it's history, I can.
Okay. Well, yeah, he last night he put out a social media post of shells in the sand, 8647, and it's all over the media last night and today. Everywhere. Ed Martin's already given an interview saying that he's going to be in big trouble one way or the other, either because of the threat or he's going to have to lie and perjure himself that he didn't know what it was. He says, I think we're going to find plenty of communications to know he knew exactly what he was doing. But this kind of goes to this whole thing of so many of these Democrats saying the most incendiary things and really, I think, trying to create I don't know if they want civil war, if they what they're after, but we know that they want to lock up conservatives, people of faith, if you pray in front of an abortion clinic. I read today over at the Federalist, I think it's at worldviewreport.com, an article over at the Federalist where it's an article about the left. Here it is. The left ultimately just wants to throw conservatives in prison. And it's talking about in one state, I think it was in, I want to say, Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut, a person got arrested for allegedly using a racial slur in an argument. Now, I'm not for racial slurs, but it seems like the left is so eager to want to throw people in jail, and now they seem to be consistently inciting violence. What do you think?
Well, I think that they're desperate. They were always willing to do, this is their quote, by any means necessary. Turn this country and this civilization into a Marxist state by any means necessary. And that includes lawfare, throwing people in prison. Some of Trump's best people had to get out of prison to go to work for him. And so the lawfare piece of this thing is outrageous. It's some of the most I'll say some of the most outrageous things we've seen in a pattern in this country. And I just want to dial back a little bit on James Comey, too. Although I'm one beat behind on current with that, I'm not behind on what happened historically. And I want to put also into that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And when Hillary Clinton's 32,000 emails and BleachBit were all crushed, and that was all hidden, and probably only the Chinese and the Russians know what was in them now. At that time, it was October of 2015. I heard Barack Obama say, well, or Hillary Clinton would never intentionally put our national security at risk. That was October 2015. And in April of 2016, he repeated himself. I remember doing a video on that with putting those clips in there. What he did then James Comey picked that language up. And when he gave his 17-minute speech on the 5th of July, 2016, there, yes, it is. When it went, oh wow, I didn't realize you guys were that good. But when he gave that 17-minute delivery to analyze all their investigations and the interviews of Hillary, which that was corrupted in my opinion. I can go into more details, but he went through about 15 minutes of explaining to us that he was going to ask the DOJ to indict Hillary Clinton for the violations of our national security. But at the end, he said, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton for this because she did not intend to jeopardize our national security. Barack Obama and then James Comey spoke that word intent into law. It does not exist in law. It doesn't require intent to violate our national security and classified documents. So that is a thread of the corruption that I think goes to Barack Obama and goes to Hillary Clinton and it goes to James Comey. And I saw it then. I don't know what the date is on that clip you've got, but that looks like the one.
Wow. Yeah, Logan's pretty fast in the control room to throw up the speeches. For the radio audience, the congressman is shocked that we were able to get that B-roll footage rolling next to him of Comey giving that actual speech. Here is a picture. I'll explain for the TV radio audience. This is Donald Trump Jr. He said, James Comey casually calling for my dad to be murdered. This is what the dim media worshipers. This is who the dim media worships, demented. And it's the 8647 in the sand. And then it was later deleted, and Comey apparently put out this. I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associated those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down. Folks, I don't believe him. I don't believe him for 1 minute, but I bet you he's being interviewed. Apparently, the Secret Service, according to news reports, Congressman, they've already opened up an investigation into this.
Well, I sure hope so. And the idea that he saw it on a beach walk, that's just not credible. That's about as credible as Loretta Lynch testifying before the Judiciary Committee when she met with Bill Clinton in that discussion about protecting Hillary Clinton on the tarmac.
Talking about
Phoenix,
grandkids.
I believe it was. Yeah, I mean, I asked her this directly. What did you talk about? She said grandkids and golf. And now maybe grandkids, I don't know about that, but I cannot imagine her carrying a golf bag around the links. It was the best story they could come up with, I guess. And I remember asking also, this is under oath before the Judiciary Committee, and we had James Comey before us, and I asked him directly, when people were in there questioning Hillary Clinton, her chief of staff was with her, by the way, who was also a subject of the investigation, but they got to collaborate in the same room along with another one of her staff people. But I said, how many were in that room questioning Hillary Clinton? The answer I got was 8. I knew that answer. How many were FBI and how many were DOJ? James Comey said, I don't know. And I said, give a guess. Well, maybe 4 and 4, something like that. And how many from DOJ and how many from FBI? Well, I don't really know. What are their names? I don't know. He knew their names. And when Loretta Lynch, our attorney general, came before me under oath again, I asked her the same question. She answered something like, well, 5 of one and 3 of the other, that adds up to 8. And who were they? I don't know. But I asked, Ed Meese III, the former Attorney General under Reagan, in a private conversation, well, semi-public dinner is what it was, said, if you were the Attorney General and you had the person most likely to be the next President of the United States in an investigation room and you sent people in to question her, what are the odds that you wouldn't know any of their names or how many from the DOJ and FBI, respectively? Ed Meese, being a wise man, didn't answer me in a quotable way. He just went like that, which didn't mean okay, and it didn't mean white power. It meant that's a 0. And then I asked Peter Strzok under oath also, who was in the room? He gave me an honest answer, the guy that we trusted the least, and he said, I was. And I asked him for the other 7 names, and he refused to answer under oath. That's
wow.
how bad that was back then, and it's been multiplied under Biden in a breathtaking way. And by the way, let's not forget that James Comey went in and tried to trap Donald Trump in the first days of his office in January of 2017. And when he went out to his car, he sat and he wrote down, he typed all his notes in that conversation as a way to enshrine that communication so they could use it against Donald Trump. They were seeking to entrap him well before he was sworn into office, and this just continues now. That James Comey, and I'll just say, go show me the beach with the shells.
Wow.
I don't think that it was not with James Comey's footprints beside it. That's my estimation anyway.
We'll be right back. Don't go away, folks. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Congressman Steve King is with me, former Congressman Steve King. And then we're going to be joined by Dr. Rob Lindstedt and Dr. Andy Woods. Congressman, let's talk real quick about the hearings before the Supreme Court yesterday, because you were really known for taking on this issue of birthright citizenship. President Trump tweeted out or put out on social media, truth. Look, this was about the children of slaves. This is not about people coming here for vacation and then delivering a child, and now they're American and now they get all the benefits and entitlement programs. Tell us, you've been kind of saying that for decades, haven't you?
Well, I went back and looked, and I can see that at least as far back as 2011, I introduced a bill to do that. And I want to give credit to Nathan Deal. I served with him in Congress at the time, and he went back home to be the governor of his state. And but he's the guy that actually put the first language in that I know of. And then I just borrowed his, maybe polished it a little bit. I don't remember if I needed to. But just thinking about this, the Constitution says all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are American citizens. And that clause, that is Senator Howard, I think, is the one that put that back when they ratified the 14th Amendment, to have that piece in there, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, was explicitly to grant citizenship to former slaves, the children of former slaves, so that they would have full citizenship in the United States of America. That's what the birthright citizenship piece was. But the exception covered so subject to the jurisdiction thereof. As I haven't read this now in some time, but there were objections that came from the Indian nations, the Native American nations now, that said if we are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, even though we are our own sovereign nation within, those who are subject will lose, babies born would lose their membership in the tribe. So they wanted an exception written in here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. I think it was beyond the pale for the framers to think that we'd be granting this automatic citizenship to illegal aliens. The immigration laws had not been fully developed by that time. That came later. So it was to make provisions so Native Americans could be comfortable within the broader country of the United States of America and write their own laws within their tribes, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They were not fully subject, and their allegiance was not fully committed, but more so than an illegal alien. Or even children of the ambassador corps that would be born here in the United States. So this just grew as a practice, and it didn't matter so much in 1898 when there was a case became before the Supreme Supreme Court that some people cite, Wong Kim Ark, that he was the son of two legal, they were lawfully present in the United States, Chinese parents, as I recall, and it was about whether he would be a citizen or not. And the court found that he would be, but that's because his parents were lawfully present, even though they were resisting Chinese immigration at that time. But that case is not on point. He was not the son of illegal aliens, and or the daughter for that matter. Now we have the cartel kingpins sending their wives pregnant into the United States to have babies, so the next generation of cartel kingpins can be American citizens on top of it. This has just got to stop, and there's many other reasons why.
So how do you think, I don't know if you heard the oral arguments yesterday before the court with the Solicitor General for the Trump administration, but how do you think the court's going to come down on this?
Well, I've had some conversations with people that were there in the room.
Wow.
And I think that the arguments that were made were not as strong as I would like to have heard them. I would have just made it real plain. If you're going to grant automatic citizenship to the children of illegal aliens, and you're going to incent more illegal immigration because of that, when you have birth tourism, where there's a turnkey operation going on in China, that if the price has probably gone up a little bit, but it was, when I was looking at this, $30,000, you can send your pregnant wife to San Francisco, and you can bunk her in a decent setup with full medical coverage, and then fly her back with a birth certificate and the baby to start the immigration all over again. I would have made those points. And I don't know that they got made as strongly as they did. And this actually was a little bit off topic, because the real center reason for this was the nationwide injunction that any district court judge can issue federal court judge can issue a nationwide injunction and nullify the decisions of the President of the United States. And the only thing that stops them, it takes them out, is if we impeach them. We don't have any other control of them that I know of, but we can defund them and we can eliminate the office. So this is kind of cluttered in together. And I'm not particularly optimistic that we will get a favorable decision on birthright citizenship out of this. But it also, the way I understand that it's configured is we can live to fight another day, and we need to. This country will be taken over and subsumed by third world populations who have a great incentive to come into America. And Brandon, I made this argument for a long time. It's this, that whenever you bring someone in from a foreign culture, you are inevitably, it's axiomatically importing their culture. People's culture goes with the person. And one of them in one location assimilates into the broader society. In a generation, you're in great shape. But the more you put into one place, the more it reinforces their old country. And so we end up with these ethnic and cultural enclaves all over this country, especially in our inner cities. They replicate the country they came from because that's all they know. And over time, it fractures America in this American exceptionalism. The commonalities of our civilization are subdivided by language, by culture, by ideologies that were raised and brought into a government that might be a Marxist government, it might be a monarchy, it might be a fascist, but it's generally not going to be in fact, it's never going to be from a constitutional republic like we are. And that's what has to be reinforced here, or we lose our country to the factions. So it's that, and the heavy load on welfare that comes, and the multiplier effect that erodes the American exceptionalism. And I've asked people, why do we do this? If we look around here, if you want to tell me there's something coming out of another culture that's good for ours, point that out to us. Can't we replicate that without adopting a few million people from that country? But nobody's making the arguments on what we get from those other countries culturally. They're just saying diversity is our strength. And then they run out of arguments, because there really isn't any sound argument about diversity being our strength.
That's right. And then when you've got the Islamist openly stating, back to the 1980s, we have a lady from C-SPAN C-SPAN was recording it. She was with Muslim Brotherhood, and she's wearing her hijab. She's Sharia compliant. And she's saying, we are not here to assimilate. We are here to turn them into Muslims. That's a direct quote. We are not here to assimilate. We are here to turn them into Muslims. And now we've got these compounds being built all over the country. And we just sent a guy, former federal agent and military guy, we just sent him down to Texas to look at what's going on there at Epic. And he came back with a report, recording it, audio and pictures, that, yeah, they've got full-on Sharia, jihad literature and they're, pushing everything that is antithetical to our constitutional republic. So you're 100% right. They're not only here to keep their culture going, they've openly stated they want us to embrace their culture, which is the, as I said, complete opposite of a free society. The way they treat women, the way they treat girls, little girls, genital mutilation. I mean, we could go on and on. The way they talk about Christians and Jews. So yeah, this is a bad situation, and it's getting worse. And I'm afraid, Congressman, in closing, that with all the great deals cut overseas, some of them great deals, we got to make sure that all of that doesn't compromise our government from dealing with this Islamic problem that I think is rapidly growing in our country. What say you in closing?
Well, when you point that out, I'm thinking that I've gone in. Not only do we have enclaves here in this country, Muslim enclaves. That's on point. I've gone to Dearborn, Michigan, and done a deep dive into the culture that's there. I've gone into the Sharia mosque and into the Shia mosque, and the Sunni and the Shia mosque. Excuse me. And I came home and I thought, well, what's going on in the Midwest? So I took a day and a half and went to Minneapolis and went and visited 7 mosques up there on my own. And then I realized if something happens up here, nobody's going to know that I'm here or what happened. And I've also gone into those areas across Europe, into Paris, where the worst terrorists were spawned there to kill so many Parisians, over to Rouen in France, where they beheaded a priest on the altar. I got to go to Mass there, a 2-hour Mass that reconsecrated that church after they closed it up for nearly a year because of the blood that was spilled there. I've gone into Rinkeby. It's an area in Stockholm that's just now surrounded all by Muslim. And I can see what's happening. And then, so maybe I just bring this around to the closed philosophy, and that is that President Erdogan of Turkey has put out a straight message, especially to the Netherlands. They sent a lot of Turks to the Netherlands, and I've sat in The Hague and watched them, by the way. And he said to them, he's saying to the people in there, he wanted them to be able to vote from the Netherlands to vote for Erdogan. And he's saying, well, go to the Netherlands, go there, have at least 5 babies, live in their apartments, drive their cars, take their welfare, and eventually we will take over the Netherlands. That's a message from just one country, one president. He's a bit unhinged, I think, but that message is going out around the world. That is a Muslim mission to dominate the world and force everyone into, I'll say, genuflecting to the ideology of the Quran.
100% accurate. 100%. His book, Walking Through the Fire, you can get it on Amazon or where books are sold. Congressman King, we dealt with it in one of our interviews with him about a month ago. They did to him what they tried doing to Donald Trump. I don't think what they did to Congressman King would work today. Too many Americans are awake, but they attributed false quotes to Congressman King. They lied about him. We've done an extensive interview. His book details it. It's called Walking Through the Fire. Walking Through the Fire by Congressman Steve King, former congressman from the 4th District of Iowa. We became friends through our mutual friend, Tamara Scott. And Congressman, great to have you with us today, and your amazing experiences, questioning people like the former Attorney General, the former Director of the FBI, going to The Hague, all you've done. You've got a lot of experience and history to speak from. We look forward to having you back.
I look forward to coming back. I'm thankful. I've been living a life rich full of experiences, and I'm in a happy place. So God bless everyone on this cause of our American exceptional and our terrific country.
Thank you, Congressman. Congressman Steve King checking in today. Check out his book, folks, Walking Through the Fire. All right, check that out. He'll be back. He's a regular on Tamara's show. All right, joining me real quick here, if we go to a hard break, is Rob Lindstedt and Dr. Andy Woods. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Brandon.
Dr. Woods is joining us. Thank you, Dr. Lindstedt. Dr. Woods is joining us by phone as he's traveling. Let's start with you. We got about 60 seconds to a break, Dr. Lindstedt. What do you make of this week's Gulf tour by President Trump?
Well, I guess I'm a little disappointed because it looks to me like instead of them accepting some ideas from Donald Trump about peace, looks to me like he took the bait, and he got so overpowered by their wealth and by their generosity that all of a sudden now the whole thing is, okay, let's bring all the world under one umbrella, one religion, and let's just be peaceful. Unfortunately, that message is not going to hold weight with the Bible, and certainly not going to hold weight in the Middle East.
Dr. Woods, what are your thoughts initially?
Well, I would just say you're seeing kind of the westernizing of UAE, Qatar, and ultimately Saudi Arabia. That's what's happening. They're being pushed more towards a Western concept, which is in turn going to push them towards one of our allies, Israel. And I think that ultimately is setting the stage for why Sheba and Dedan, Ezekiel 38, verse 13, are sort of bystanders in the looming Gog-Magog invasion.
So they sit on the sidelines and watch it go down. Let's get into all that and a lot here with Dr. Woods and Dr. Lindstedt right after this.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Of course, we said there are going to be times we agree with President Trump. There are going to be times we disagree. I wish he wouldn't have done this one. The White House Twitter page today. President Trump leaves a message of unity to the people of the United Arab Emirates after signing the guest book at the Abrahamic Family House. Quote, great unity, great faith, incredible people with a tremendous leader who is a friend of mine, end quote. So he's gone to the Abrahamic Family House, which they say it stands for a powerful symbol of interfaith harmony and coexistence. POTUS Trump was honored to visit this beautiful home of the Abrahamic faiths, reinforcing the U.S. and UAE's shared commitment to a more peaceful and prosperous world. All right, well, I think he really needs someone like my team to come in there and help educate him on Islam. What say you, Dr. Lindstedt?
Yeah, the thing that I see that's painful, the Abrahamic Accord. I remember even going to Jordan, and looked at a statue that has Abraham and tries to put together Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. But the foundation of Christianity is Jesus Christ. Our founding father is not Abraham. Our foundation is Jesus Christ. And so it's typical of what we're seeing happen across America in many ways. They say doctrine's not important. Well, doctrine is important. And there's some big differences. When these people disagree with us, and by the way, Islam does disagree with Christianity, their solution is usually to eliminate it by death. And they talk about eliminating both Israel and the United States. But as a Christian, if I disagree with someone on doctrine, or if I disagree with someone of another world religion, my solution is not to kill them. My solution might be to convert them. I'm for discussion, but I really think that it's a dangerous thing to say that, okay, really, we're all going to exist together. There's not going to be any differences. We don't have to worry about doctrine. We do have to worry about doctrine, just like we have to worry about what's the fundamental values of a country. And so I think in some ways, our president, who is a master at negotiating a deal, I think he took his own bait, because he was so taken up with the contributions that people were saying, okay, we're going to invest in America. we're going to do this, and we're going to give you this jet. That's a wonderful gift, but it seems like in America, couldn't we afford to buy our own president his own plane? And so, I worked for companies before, and as an engineer, we were not allowed to accept gifts from the salesmen of other companies because we knew that it did have an influence one way or another. So I'm afraid that we allowed looks to deceive us. I think we took our own bait.
Dr. Woods, what do you make of this?
Well, I mean, there's two different hats, to put on when talking about these things. You can put on your political hat or your prophecy hat. I'll just put my prophecy hat on for a minute because I think there's enough political pundency out there. To me, it's westernizing those states in that part of the world. Qatar, the UAE. Everybody's saying Saudi Arabia is the next one to normalize relations, with Israel. And so it's pulling that part of the world into sort of a Western mindset, the gift of the plane and the deals and this and that. And it's kind of forging a relationship between our country and those other countries. And people have to remember that when they forge a relationship with our country, they have to forge a relationship with Israel because Israel is an ally of the United States of America. And so I think this will be used to pressure those states into normalizing relations with Israel. And as the Saudis, the next door neighbors, and all the analysts say the Saudis are the next to fall under the Abraham Accords, as the Saudis fall into this mindset, it's set up for Ezekiel 38, verse 13. It explains why America and the Saudis would be kind of stage a lame protest when this Gog-Magog invasion that we talk about frequently transpires. So it's like the pain. We're seeing the painting coming into existence, and now we're seeing the fine colors and the fine details being added to the canvas.
Is President Trump, Andy, trying to build relationships with so many Muslim nations that he can then use this to collapse any support that Iran might have, cut deals where they basically just isolate Iran and let it collapse from within?
Well, that could be part of his thinking. Everybody says he plays, three-dimensional chess. He's always ahead of the curve. I guess I'm a little more pessimistic about him. I think he's the art of the deal president, and I think he's a deal maker. And I'm afraid that he's sort of treating this just like it's a hotel deal or something. I'm not fully sure if he understands what he's getting into because of the concept of taqiyya, where Muslims are allowed to lie, to advance the cause of Allah. And because you're dealing with Israel, God's special nation, you can't just approach this like it's an art of the deal type of thing. So, well, I would love to believe, Brandon, that he's thinking the way you're thinking. I'm a little more bearish, I guess, on it. I think he's kind of approaching it through Western glasses, and I think he's probably a little naive on the subject matter.
Yeah, he needs our team to come in and really give him a private briefing on Islam. Dr. Lindstedt, do you think that he's also trying to get all these countries on board for the Abrahamic Accords? In other words, you got Jimmy Carter with the Camp David Agreement or Accords, you got the Oslo Accords, you got the Abrahamic Accords he wants to keep going on, that he worked on in his first term. Donald Trump's trying to go down in history with the biggest deal in modern time, a Middle East deal, which in one respect, I hope he's successful when I have my prophecy hat on, because if he is, that's setting the stage for someone to come along and confirm that peace deal, which, again, if we want to kind of figure out where we're at on the timetable and, all that, then these things have to happen. And this, again, is why maybe God allowed Donald Trump to get elected. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it does set the stage for as Andy was saying, for Saudi Arabia and others who are standing on the sidelines. They're certainly drawn in to not take a stand against Israel, to say openly. I think it also makes an alliance so that there can be a master peace mind that comes. But remember, the peace confirmer comes to deceive, and that's why I think we need to really be careful as we watch this. I believe that how you negotiate a deal in the West is very different than how you negotiate a deal in the Middle East. And I don't know. I know that Trump can make a deal in New York, and he can probably make one in Texas and California, but I just don't know that he's aware of the pitfalls that go on in the Middle East, because there the truth is not well. You can tell a lie and it's okay as long as it ends up making you successful. That's a different way to do business than we do it here. I think another thing that really concerns me. Look, let's look at the universities. Okay, how did our universities become so saturated with pro-Palestinian? Well, what happened, our universities, Qatar is a great example of this. They spent billions, not millions, billions of dollars investing in universities, making them say, hey, we're friends, we're interested in research, we're interested in technology. But then they turn out to be pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel. There's a price to pay for that. And I think we didn't learn from what's happened to our universities, because it can easily happen to us. So when he says, okay, we just got this much money invested into the American economy, well, listen, they expect to own something. Those countries are shrewd businessmen. They've learned how to make a deal themselves. And so they believe that they're going to get a return on their dollar, and they're not investing $1 to get $1 back. They're investing $1 to get 10 back. So my experience in the Middle East is we're not negotiating in the West. Qatar, very bright people. Did you see the UAE and Qatar announcement concerning AI and technology? I mean, this is fantastic. They have some things that are a generation ahead of us. All right, they bombshelled him. They shocked him with that. I think we swallowed it. Why do they want to invest in America? If they have all the technology they need, if they have all the wealth they need, why would they invest in America? Only one reason: they want to enlarge. And so that's why they invested in American universities to privilege their case. That's why they're invested in America. I think we have to be careful when we take that. But I think it does set up prophetically exactly what's going to take place. And that is when an Antichrist comes and says peace and safety, then there's going to be sudden destruction, because you can't believe the Antichrist. And I'm not sure that I trust those that are negotiating these deals. I just don't think they understand the depth to which these people will go to eliminate Israel and to eliminate Christianity.
Well said. Well said. Let's talk about Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron just said, we just had a phone call with POTUS while in Albania. Once again, President Putin refuses to respond to the unconditional ceasefire proposal put forward by the Americans and supported by the Ukrainians and Europeans. By rejecting the ceasefire and dialogue with Ukraine, Russia shows it doesn't want peace. It is merely trying to buy time by continuing the war. In this context, as the European political community gathers for a summit in Tirana, we will continue to coordinate with our European partners, the United States, and the coalition of the willing to define a united response. Apparently, the meetings have ended after about 2 hours with nothing. The meetings are over. We got video pictures of those that were at the meetings driving away. I think the Europeans are getting their way, Dr. Lindstedt. They want war. They want war. I think they're getting their way. What say you?
Well, Macron is not my favorite world leader. Here's a guy who really believes his own personal opinion of himself is very high. He believes that he's one of the masterminds of leadership in the world. He just can't understand why everybody else hasn't caught on that he's such a great leader. So when I see how that he's double dealing, he's double dealing. You know, why is he in the position that he's in? Why is it that he's supporting the pro-Palestinian movement? It's because right now his country is so Islamic. Islam has taken over his country. He's hanging by a thread. So this guy constantly, almost weekly, makes a statement anti-Israel. And he'll do anything he can to put himself in the forefront. I just don't trust him. I don't think he has any good intentions other than to promote himself to be a world leader.
Let's get a response from Dr. Woods when we come back. And any other stories Dr. Woods been watching over the last, 2 weeks since we visited with him, because we were at Arlington National Cemetery a week ago right now. No, actually take that back. We were on the motor coach interviewing Akeem after having walked all over Arlington National Cemetery. So, but I don't think we had a chance to visit with Dr. Woods in 2 weeks. So we'll ask him what other stories he's been watching in that time frame as well. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Dr. Woods will be one of the keynote speakers at our fall 22nd annual Worldview Weekend National Conference. Dr. Woods will be there speaking. We added him again this year. And we added Hadia, the former Muslim turned Christian. She'll be speaking not just on Thursday night, but giving another presentation on Friday or Saturday. So we got Alex Newman, Gordon Chang, Sidney Powell, Dr. Lana, Hadia, Dr. Woods, Chris Martinson, and Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. All of it available at worldviewstore.com. We only have seating for 350. All the speakers are there in person live. Worldviewstore.com, including Thursday night banquet as well. Worldviewstore.com. Dr. Woods, let's go to this one real quick, and that is for the first time in 2,000 years, lamb was brought to the Temple Mount for second Passover. I guess it was in a backpack or something. But they are really adamant to get a sacrifice up there, aren't they, Dr. Woods?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that story is Daniel 9:27 indicates that halfway through the tribulation period, the Antichrist will not just desecrate the temple, but he'll put an end to sacrifice and offering, indicating that a temple and sacrifice and offering have to be up and running midway through the tribulation period. So I just found this story interesting because it's showing the Jewish mindset with many within Israel. Let's get the sacrifices going. And they're willing to break the law and risk being thrown in jail, to bring up a sacrifice for Passover.
Mm-hmm. And then
interesting stuff.
And then when it comes to Gog Magog, Memory TV has a headline: Iranian ambassador to Russian Kazmin Jalali, Russian-Iran relations have surpassed mere neighborly ties. Russia has aligned with our positions on regional, international, and bilateral issues. So that's May 7th. So apparently Russia and Iran are getting closer and closer, Dr. Woods.
Yeah, it's, the interesting thing about the Ezekiel 38 and 39 is not just the position of the nations against Israel, but it's the alliance of those very nations with one another. And you see these alliances building constantly. The Memory headline, very interesting, showing that Russia are not just neighbors anymore, but they're in, close cahoots, so to speak. And then some of these articles I sent you also talk about Russia and Libya, because people need to keep their eye on North Africa. I've been told that, hey, we're a long way away from the Gog-Magog invasion because North Africa is not in place. Well, it is in place. It's coming more aggressively into place as Russia is developing a relationship with Libya and sending its own delegations into Libya. So watch these connections forming constantly.
Yeah, we just saw that headline. Here's another one. Delegation from Russian Foreign Ministry arrives in Tripoli. Dr. Woods?
Yeah, that's just more of the same. Watch Russia and Sudan developing a relationship. Sudan is one of the players Ezekiel speaks of. Watch Russia and Libya. Libya, I think, is put. Sudan would be Kush or Ethiopia. But Rosh is developing a relationship with those two. So there is a Russian presence in North Africa. And again, just like with the Trump visit to nearby Saudi Arabia, it's just the fun of the Gog-Magog scenario are coming boldly into existence in our lifetime.
Dr. Woods, and then we have the governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee's daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Arkansas becomes the first state to ban agencies from saying West Bank. That's a pejorative against Samaria, Judea and Samaria. Want to comment on this and what Dr. Woods was saying?
Well, again,
go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
No, I think the article that Andy showed there, that Russia is showing interest in Libya and North Africa, that fits in so well with a passage in Ezekiel 38, and even the disappearance of Syria, kind of as an independent country. What's interesting to me is to see all the design of the leaders that really were supposed to meet in the Middle East. Normally, leaders are meeting around the world about the Middle East. This particular week, they were all in the Middle East meeting about the world. And I saw where just in the last couple of days, Syria has announced a new deal to print their currency with the UAE and Germany blocking out Russia. And so the alignments are being made, but every time it shifts exactly how the Bible shows them lining up. Nations with Russia against Israel, and others hope supporting Israel legitimately. But we're seeing a week in which the world did everything it could to bring everybody together in a peaceful way, even including the visit of these churches. Is it peace or is it the facade of peace? It might look peaceful on the outside, but I don't know that there's a common background, a common thread to really generate a real peace. In order to have peace, there's got to be a common thread for both people. And I think that is missing. I don't know that it'll ever be there until an Antichrist comes and says, okay, here's how we can make this thing work.
Well, things are certainly moving fast. There's no doubt about that. Closing comment from you, Dr. Woods, before we go back to Dr. Lindstedt for closing comment?
Well, I would just like to say something about the 14th Amendment, if I could.
Yeah.
Putting on my attorney's hat, building on what Representative King was saying earlier. The thing to understand about the 14th Amendment is that has been hijacked by the left constantly. I mean, they found part of the basis for the Roe versus Wade ruling in the 14th Amendment. And if you'll remember, they were using the 14th Amendment, which bans people running for president, etc., that supported riots. That's why they were pushing so aggressively January 6th, and Trump started a riot. And so they always take the 14th Amendment out of context and use it for left-wing policies. Now they're doing it with this idea that anyone born in the United States, even if they come here from illegal parents, has a right to stay here. And that's just another example of the total abuse of the 14th Amendment. Rep. King was exactly right. The 14th Amendment has a context, It's a post-Civil War amendment. It's part of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that were specifically designed to grant.
And that's our broadcast. Take care.
This has been Worldview Radio.
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you on Worldview Tube. Dr. Lindstedt, let me go ahead. Andy is not here anymore because he was on the VCY line. But go ahead, give us your closing thoughts on all this. Well,
I want to go back a little bit to the idea of what we saw take place this last week. We saw a new leader in Syria, and continually Trump said he's such a handsome guy, such a powerful leader. And I said, okay, what has this guy done? Do we pick a leader because he's handsome? And so to me, it's almost what we're seeing in the local church movement. What attracts people to a church? And it should be that they're biblical. It should be that they have their doctrine correct, because after all, does doctrine matter? The answer is absolutely does. Matter of fact, in 1 Timothy chapter 4, he says, give heed to reading, exhortation, and doctrine. He even says, give yourself wholly to it. But today, we find that doctrine is no longer important in a church. In other words, let's emphasize maybe the external things. Not that these things are bad, but it might be the chili dinner. It might be the choir. I'll get in trouble for saying all these things, but really, what should connect you? Well, it should be, what does the Bible say, and how well do we practice what the Bible says? I look at what took place, and there was a lot of wealth displayed. There were some good feelings displayed. There was some backslapping. But in terms of really building a bridge, of having people say, I now understand what Israel's about. I now see why this group of terrorists is against Israel. No, none of that took place. There was not a change. But instead, there was the movement of, okay, let's invest economically in America. Let's strengthen our ties with America. All these things, to me, were the outside, the facade, not the inner part. And that's what concerns me, because, you see, when the Antichrist comes to power and he makes this peace treaty, it's not going to be because he's really trying to do a favor for Israel. No, he's doing it to deceive. And so he pretends like he's sympathetic, but he's not really. I think we just watched an example of that take place. I'm not trying to name who an Antichrist is. The Bible doesn't name the Antichrist. We don't know. But I just feel like we watched a facade look so deceptive. I think we swallowed the bait, and I think we come away thinking, okay, we've got peace coming in the Middle East. We don't. We're further away from peace than we've been in at least 6 weeks. Proof? How come Israel wasn't invited to the peace talks? How come right now there's a very powerful war going on with Israel, the IDF fighting in Gaza, because there's not peace? The ideological values have not changed. It's still eliminate Israel, eliminate America. And so I really think we've got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to make it look good, or are we trying to really solve the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me show you what some of the problem is. Here we have a Palestinian terrorist trying to stab a Israeli police officer. He's been eliminated. He's alive there, but I think he ended up dying.
Peace coming in the Middle East. We don't. We're further away from peace than we've been in at least.
Go ahead, Rob. Okay, that was my phone computer. I thought that was your voice, but anyway, yeah, there we go. We got a guy being eliminated by the police in Jerusalem, but he tried stabbing an Israeli police officer. I guess he's alive in this footage, but the report says he died later. So,
well, I've been in the Middle East enough to say that there are people who have different religious persuasions. I've sat at a table with people that are Jews, Arabs, and myself as a Christian. And we don't fight. We can be friends. But but we look for, okay, what is the common ground? And then we have to say, okay, we don't have it. I'm all for them trying to convince me to change my opinion. I should feel free to convince them to change. The difference is this. When I'm done, if I disagree with them, I don't wish them to be dead.
Right.
And that's what they don't understand. The Middle East, that's a Western point of view. The Middle East point of view is if you don't convert to what I'm saying, then we have to eliminate you, and that means death.
And that's what you see in the Quran, in the Hadiths.
Yep.
So anyone questioning that they're just following what the Prophet told them and what they're supposedly commanded to do by Allah. BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org for Dr. Lindstead's website, resources, and his show every day here at what time, Logan? 11 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Central. Dr. Lindstead, thank you so much as always.
My pleasure.
And folks, if you appreciate what we're doing, we are listener supported. WorldviewFoundation.com. Please consider supporting us today so we can keep it all going and growing. WorldviewFoundation.com. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.